So let me get this straight. You're telling me there are people out there who read horror only for Halloween? Who are these people? The Halloween season is upon us, and though I read horror all year, of course, as I assume many of you do, there is a certain connection between horror literature and Halloween that we can't ignore. And so every year I choose a handful of books that I will read throughout the month of October that are not just horror, but are specifically related to the Halloween season. And some of these books I read almost every year, and others are year-specific. This year I have selected 5 particular books for my Halloween reading. Now, even though I usually read many more than 5 books in a month, these are the ones that I've specifically chosen as the Halloween selections for this year. Now, some of these I have read and am specifically recommending to you. Others I have not read yet, but I'm particularly excited to give them a try. We're going to talk about all of them. First up is one of my personal favorites, and that is this book, October Dreams. This is an anthology of short stories, novellas, and non-fiction Halloween remembrances. And these are written by primarily horror authors and a few other people who write generally spooky things. Now, just some of the authors represented in this book include Dean Koontz, Peter Straub, Poppy Z. Bright, Simon Clark, Jack Ketchum, Richard Lehman, Ray Bradbury, Tim Levin, Kelly Lehman, and many, many more. This is one of my favorites. I read this almost every year, and I read at least some of the stories every year. Now, this anthology won the International Horror Guild Award, and its subtitle is A Celebration of Halloween. And that's exactly what it is. This is a celebration of Halloween. These stories are well written and well selected, but what I particularly like are the nonfiction pieces, the remembrances, the Halloween memories from these authors. This is a real treasure of Halloween goodness, and I think it may be out of print now, so I'm not sure how hard it will be to find, but I definitely recommend trying to track it down. October Dreams, very good book, highly recommended. Now for me, it's just not Halloween, it's just not October even, until you've read some Ray Bradbury. Best known, of course, for Fahrenheit 451, the classic anti-censorship work. Ray Bradbury has also written a number of Halloween-related or October-related books. Those include such classics as The Halloween Tree, but the one I've selected this year is this one, Something Wicked This Way Comes. Of course, this is a classic book, and I've read it many times, and I'm sure many of you have read it many times. So I'm not going to go into great detail concerning what it is or what it's about, because most of you probably already know. But this is actually the October selection for my book club, as well as a classic work of Halloween literature, so I'm looking forward to rereading it this year. The next book I've chosen is actually a non-fiction book. That is Trick or Treat, A History of Halloween by Lisa Morton. This is a short little book, but it's packed with history that I'm going to bet most of you don't know about Halloween. I fancy myself quite the expert on horror in general, Halloween stuff in particular, and there was a lot of information in here that even I didn't know. Of course, some things that I did know. It's also very well written. It makes an entertaining read in addition to an enlightening one. If you're interested in where our Halloween traditions come from, pick up a copy of Trick or Treat, A History of Halloween by Lisa Morton. Highly recommended. You won't be disappointed. The next one on my reading list is a book that actually just came out, and unfortunately I haven't gotten my copy yet. I'm told that Amazon is supposed to be bringing it to me tomorrow, but I couldn't put off filming until I had my copy in hand. The book is another title by Lisa Morton. It's called Calling the Spirits, A History of Seances. Now, as I mentioned, I haven't read this book, but based on the same author's History of Halloween, I have very high expectations. As a magician, I've actually performed theatrical seances, so even though I'm not particularly a believer in those sorts of things, I do sort of have one foot in that world, so I'm very much looking forward to reading another history book about a subject that I already consider myself something of an expert about, but I fully expect that Lisa Morton has dug up some facts that even I don't know. Since I haven't read the book yet, I can't give it a wholehearted recommendation. I can only say that I expect it to be good and that it's part of my Halloween reading. So instead of giving you a review, let me just read off a bit of the publisher's description for you. It says, "Calling the Spirits investigates the eerie history of our conversations with the dead, from necromancy in Homer's Odyssey to the emergence of spiritualism when Victorians were entranced by mediums and the seance was born. Among our cast are the Fox sisters, teenagers surrounded by spirit wrappings." Incidentally, they largely started the spiritualist movement with an admitted fraudulent communication with spirits. Fascinating characters. Continuing. Daniel Douglas Home, the greatest medium of all time, Houdini and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Now, the Houdini and Doyle story is also fascinating. These are both giants of their time, and their work, of course, is immortal in the history books. But they ended up finding themselves on opposite sides of the spiritualist debate for a variety of reasons, both intellectual and personal. Fascinating. I expect that'll make a fascinating read for many of us. Continuing. And Helen Duncan, the medium whose trial in 1944 for witchcraft proved more popular to the public than news about the war. The book also considers Ouija boards, modern psychics, and paranormal investigations, and is illustrated with engravings, fine art from beyond, and photographs. A hugely entertaining contribution from the supernaturally adept Lisa Morton. Calling the Spirits begs the question, is anybody there? I'm definitely looking forward to that book. And even though it's not technically a Halloween book, seances are kind of a Halloween thing, including the long-running Houdini seance at the Magic Castle. So I'm going to definitely enjoy reading the history of seances for part of my Halloween celebration. The last book on my list is another new release that also, unfortunately, I don't yet have a copy of, and that is Halloween Season by Lucy A. Snyder, published this year by Raw Dog Screaming Press. I can't really tell you very much about it. I know that the author has done some good work in the past, and being a brand new Halloween book, of course it's going to be part of my Halloween reading. Allow me to read you a little bit of the publisher's description. Halloween is the most wonderful part of the year for many of us. For dedicated fans, the season begins when the leaves start turning autumn colors and doesn't finish until Hallowtide ends in November. With it comes a whole lot of fun, scary movies and stories, haunted houses, seasonal sweets, spooky decorations, costume parties, and of course, trick-or-treat. But Halloween is also a deeply spiritual time for some. It's an opportunity to remember and honor loved ones who have passed on. Master storyteller Lucy A. Snyder has filled her cauldron with everything that Halloween means to her and distilled it into a spellbinding volume of stories. Within these pages you'll find thrills and chills, hilarity and horrors, the sweet and the naughty. One of the best things about Halloween is you don't have to be yourself. So go ahead and try on a new mask or two. You may discover hidden talents as a witch, a pirate, a space voyager, a zombie fighter, or even an elf. This is the perfect collection to celebrate the season of the dead, or to summon those heady autumn vibes whenever you like. You may even find a couple of tales that evoke a certain winter holiday that keeps trying to crowd in on the fun. In the worlds within this book, every day is Halloween. And though I have not yet read that book, that is a sentiment with which I fully agree. Every day is like Halloween for me, and hopefully for those of you watching. So, enjoy your Halloween season with some of these books, and in the meantime, take care and stay scared.